Welcome to an episode of Future Stars. Now, I am Mike Freland. As always, I am joined by, I guess it's my boss and marathon partner now. I guess, is that what that is now? You're a runner?
Trying to.
Man, Rittster, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing a lot better now this week, Freeland. Feel a little better. Not 100%, but we're gonna sit there and we're gonna get through this.
I know a lot of people have been affected by the recent strand of COVID reoccurrences, so our thoughts and prayers are out there with you as well. There's a nasty stomach bug going around as well, so try to keep yourself as healthy as possible. But it seems like wintertime, there's always something going on, and this winter is definitely no exception.
Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous and everything, but we're gonna sit there and work through this. And it's Friday night. We have a great guest lined up. Freeland, are you ready?
I am absolutely ready. Who do we got on the big program tonight?
Well, we've got a very talented indie wrestler. And without further ado, we're going to bring in Mr. Steve Pena.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good to see you, sir. Thank you so much for carving out some time for us tonight.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So many things going on right now, but I guess I just want to start off by saying how's life treating you, just in general, with everything going on? I know that it's hard staying healthy as a wrestler in general, but with all these other things going around and needing to make sure you have time to work out at the gym and nutrition and all that, are you able to keep yourself healthy? And maybe what are some tips that you use during this time of year to kind of keep that immune system boosted?
I mean, for the most part, yeah. It's definitely not easy. I just actually beat COVID about 2, 3 weeks ago, which I got from a show, which is what can we do, right? It was like it's almost to say it was a matter of time, which sucks to say because we're around so many people, so many fans. The locker rooms is always so small. Um, but yeah, I try to stay for the most part since COVID. I've been working out in my house. I just feel not that I'm scared to go to the gym, but when the gyms closed down in New York, it was I was forced to work out in my house, and I saw way better results.
Right.
I started doing workouts that I learned over in Germany, which I did a little bit of it after Germany, but I went full steam during COVID, and I saw a huge difference in every aspect of my health, and I've been doing that. And I've been great. It's been working so far.
How is the promotions been handling as far as just have you noticed they've been taking any additional precautions as far as people trying to keep them as healthy as possible? Anything that they've been offering or
I, to be honest with you, I started doing shows down in Florida. This is like mid-pandemic when Florida was like, when that governor didn't care. So it was pretty scary. And when I went down there, I noticed honestly, like I was the only one with a mask. Now I'm not a mask or whatever, but I wear my mask, and I was the only one with a mask. So it was pretty lenient. I'm surprised I didn't get sick down there or the group, because we went with a group from New York and Jersey down there. But up here in the beginning, it was like, you needed a negative test. You have to wear your mask. You couldn't touch the fans while coming out. So it was I was pretty comfortable with it. Now it seems like it's back to normal in the sense of like some buildings allow full capacity. I mean,
yeah, it's one of those things where I'm seeing nowadays, especially with Dynamite. I'm not really sure what Raw is doing, but they're saying now in certain parts of the country they want you to show some type of vaccination card and whatnot. And I know that's a very polarizing topic, but I think you would agree the most important thing is if you're coming out to a show, have respect for the talent and make sure that
yes, yes.
you are thinking about them.
Right, right. I mean, it's one thing to say, "Oh, I don't believe in the vax." Yeah, you don't believe in it, but other people do. You know what I mean? And if you're coming to watch us as talent, there's nothing more selfish. It's like, oh yeah, like let me give him a fire, let me jump on him, give him a hug, and you're my man. Like, no, that's not, like that's not how it works. And it's like, if you don't want to get vaxxed, don't get vaxxed, don't wear a mask, but just don't come to a show and risk others. because
No,
we all know that chairs are like this. There's like no space. Like in the beginning, they will split the chairs up, but nowadays it's not. You're next to somebody, and like here in Jersey or New York, there's rarely any railing, so you're pretty close to the ring. Like if you go to a Beyond show, like you're on the by
the
the
rope
ring,
line.
so you're
Yep.
right. So you're very close to the talent to whatever's going on. So it can be pretty scary. But it's like if you take care of yourself, you should be fine. But some fans don't take it that way.
No, I'm with you 100%, and that's a difficult part. But let's kind of go ahead and let's talk about your career. And you've been in wrestling for a while now, which is really
Right.
really exciting. For everybody joining us right now, we are here with wrestler Steve Pena, and he's going to be kind of giving us a little timeline and run through about his career, and then we're going to touch upon the places he's going to be, and so people can learn more about you. That's the beauty of what we do on this show, is to be able to expand our listener base, just as many talent as we can. So if you're in their neck of the woods and they can say, oh yeah, I heard from
Mhm.
him on that show, they can come out, support you, buy some t-shirts, and hopefully say a nice respective distance hello to you.
Right, 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 right. I mean, I
So
won't, I won't stiff on the person, but yeah.
there you go. I was going over your resume, and you started back in 2009. Is that correct?
Right, I started January '09 out in training with Johnny Rods, who's a Hall of Famer for
Yes.
WWE, out in Brooklyn in Gleason. Yeah.
So the Northeast, as we know, has always been a hotbed for wrestling. The Northeast, the New York, the Boston, the Pennsylvania area as well has always been huge. And Johnny Rods is a legend when it comes to training. Tell me a little bit about when you actually decided that you wanted to become a wrestler. What was the genesis of that decision-making process? And then how does that go into, oh, this is who I want to train with?
It's it's a weird story because basically I was in college and I was playing college baseball and I was a fan. I was a fan of wrestling, but I never thought of pursuing it. It was a weird moment where I just found baseball not fun anymore. Like it didn't hit, it didn't click anymore. So I started watching more wrestling, but just WWE. Like I wasn't introduced to like Ring of Honor or anything else. Maybe some TNA, but it was weird because I was watching SmackDown, and after SmackDown aired, the news would come on, and that night they had a piece on Johnny Rods, which I never knew about. I looked up schools before, but all I saw was in Jersey. I never saw nothing here, so I'm like, well, I'm a college student who's broke. How can I get to Jersey every day? So I just time will pass. I'll find another school where I'm gonna have a car or money. So I'm like, oh my God, there's a school in Brooklyn, and it's Johnny Rods. I'm like, where was this at? Where was Google? Like, Google failed me. There was nowhere near it. So I actually went. I met up with him, and I joined it. This is like right after the doghouse closed down.
Hmm.
Hog wasn't open yet. It was basically nothing in New York City but that school. Now I'm not saying I settled, but there was nothing else but that school. And I went, and it was good for the most part. But I'll be honest with you, I had no fun at all at the Johnny Brown School at all. And I'm being honest, like it sucks. I might get enemies, but I didn't have fun because he had the very old school way of not train. I'm sorry, not train, but his rule is if you're there, you cannot go anywhere else at all. You cannot do no
Wow.
indie show. Yeah, you cannot do no indie show. You cannot train nowhere else. If you're his, you're his. And I found, I'm sorry, I found that funny, because years passed on and WWE started contacting me. And I remember going into Johnny's office and I would tell him, listen, hey, Mr. Regal hit me up. He sent me an email and he would get mad at me. Johnny would get mad at me because he's contacting me. So I'm like, oh, this is not good. So I ended up going to a PC tryout, which they invited me to. They flew me out, and he was living with me. So I'm like, I can't do it. Yeah, exactly. I can't do it
That's not.
anymore.
That's not. No.
Not good at all. So he started catching on. So I would go in, and he would disrespect me a lot because he started catching on that I'm like trying to do my own thing, and he would disrespect me a lot, and I wasn't having it. Like I think respect is a two-way street. Like I give him my respect, but I feel like as a teacher, as a student, as a coach, as a trainer, you should want the best for your student, and that's not what I felt. Now, what he did teach was it was great stuff that I haven't learned to this day by anybody else. Don't get me wrong, but to be a student in school I feel like it wasn't fair. It's not fair because it's still going on to this day. But then I started catching on that there's several coaches and schools out there that do the same exact thing. I just
Yeah.
wasn't having it. Yeah.
No, it's really interesting you brought up that because I'm not sure if you're familiar with this story, but Kevin Owens tells a story about
You just read my mind.
Raymond
Yep.
Rougeau, and the problem was he said, I wanted to get into wrestling, and I started going to Raymond's school, and some of you guys have already probably heard the story as well, but the problem was kind of what you were saying with Johnny
Yep.
Rods
Exactly.
is
Yep.
you weren't allowed to go anywhere, even if people contacted you. That was frowned upon. You were not able to grow. If promoters had reached out to you, you weren't able to go ahead. You'd have to graciously decline. And it does put the talent at a very, very awkward situation because, as you
Yes.
said before, as a coach, your goal is to see your students succeed. And if they get an opportunity to go to WWE, that's a feather in your cap that you were actually training them. So
Exactly.
it's so bizarre, at least to me, and it probably is for you as well, to see that, oh man, I really want to do this. I have people recognizing me, but yet I have to basically say no. And I think that
Right.
is, and then you have to have those awkward conversations. That should never, ever
That
occur. It
shouldn't
should
happen.
be,
Right.
hey, Regal reached out to you, man. This is amazing. Good for you. I'll go ahead and shoot him a text message and, what's the details? When do you have to be down there? Is there anything you want to do to prepare? And I feel, and I don't know Johnny, but I've heard
Hmm.
many situations like this before. I feel like there's some level of protection or maybe ego sometimes,
Oh
and
yeah.
we all have it. But you got to let these students flourish.
Yeah.
You really. So I'm 100% in your camp with. That's a head scratcher.
Yeah. 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 And
You, you
it's. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh no, you sit there and think that, being a trainer that, you know, you get WWE Regal contacting you, and that's gotta sit there and be like, man, I must be doing something right.
One
You know,
more compliment, right? Like as
yeah,
a trainer, like, oh, my student got contacted by Regal. Like that's like the ultimate compliment. And I'm like, this is not right. Like what? And it makes you like think like, what is his what's the agenda? Like not being happy for me, like to keep me having to pay monthly. I don't know. I don't know. But I just wasn't having it. And then when the disrespect happened, like it happened constantly. I'm like, okay, I gotta go. And people tell me, "Oh, but why did you stay there for so long?" It's because he had connections that he was like offer students. Like Masha, Masha came in at like 16, and Johnny sent her through a connect to Japan, and when she was still below, she wasn't 18 yet. She was 17, and he sent her to Japan. So stuff like that was happening. Yeah, okay, my time will come. He sent me to Mexico, which he did to some people. He sent Masha to Japan. So you would like kind of like drink the Kool Aid and be okay. My chance is coming, my because you will see it, to other people. But then when my opportunity came, because it was a him that gave it to me. Like he wanted to say, yeah, I made him, I gave you this opportunity. If it wasn't me, then no, you cannot take it, and that's what bothered me. Yeah,
It takes a strong person to say, I appreciate all that you've done for me, but yet it's time for me to go. And I think that can be viewed in a couple different ways. I think one way could be someone could say, wow, you're leaving. I guess you don't appreciate what I'm doing for you. But I think that there's another aspect to that where people would say, no, you can't hold people back if they have, this is
yeah,
their dream. It's like any professional athlete. Your window is small. And every day it gets smaller and your bump card gets more filled. And hey,
absolutely.
time is of the essence. So we either take advantages. Plus, William Regal, let's be honest here. It's not like just any trainer is
Right,
calling you.
right.
That guy, that guy is so
He's
revered
the
in the
guy.
industry. Him and Fit Finley and Dean Malenko. I mean, and the list goes on of people who have done this for so many decades and have produced so many great products. But I'll get off that horse completely. So let's go back into the story. So obviously you trained with them. You knew the situation. Hey, this is probably going to be under his rules only. I'm going to have to probably get going.
Yeah. So basically, after that, I just left, and I found a ring, another wrestling ring in the Bronx, which I was living in the Bronx, and it was with some of the students that were at House of Glory, and I would go just to try it out, just to get open ring, and it was amazing. It, honestly, it was the first time that I legit was having fun in a ring because I was wrestling with the idea of getting on TV, but I wasn't appreciating and having fun throughout the journey, if that makes sense.
No, it
Now
does.
that's when I started, yeah, that's when I started catching on. Listen, I'm just training, sweating, killing myself, and I'm having a blast. I'm having a blast. Then came the PC, and that was in 2016, and that was when the European scene was like blowing up, like progress was blowing up, and all this stuff. And I literally saved my money and my tax money that I had that year, and I got fired from my job because I told them, listen, I'm going to Germany. I just bought my flight, paid for the room over there, and stayed in Germany for about 5 6 weeks to train with Walter and Timothy Thatcher. I actually lived with Thatcher in the apartment, and that was the best move I ever made. So that was the most I've learned ever, even in those 5 weeks.
I think you'll agree a lot of times when it comes to success in anything, and I mean especially wrestling. Wrestling is the epitome of it. Like reporters and news anchors have to move all over the country and all over the world, and it's so cutthroat, and there's only so many
Right.
spots. And to pick up and move over to Germany was a big thing, to go over there for a period of time, leave your life behind. But yet
Yeah.
looking back, it seems like you had a lot of good experiences, and more than anything, you learned a lot.
I learned the most over there, and I feel like that trip shaped what I do now, and that trip shaped me, and it separates me, at least in my opinion, from other people. Now, what I learned I've done in front of Gabe Sapolsky, and he got me for Evolve. So I felt like, okay, I'm doing something right. Like I'm not where I want to be, but I'm doing something right. It's a ladder, and I'm progressing little by little. And over there, the training is brutal. It's not the same as over here. It's not as lenient. Like either you won or you don't. You do it right or you don't. It's pretty. Walter, what you see on TV, no, that's really him. That's not a gimmick. He's a badass. He's a wall. But yeah, what I learned over there, and I learned more watching, going to the shows than actually training. It's just the way they wrestle, the way they work, the way they maneuver. It's completely different. Completely different. It might be one sport, but night and day. So that I came back and I tried to incorporate it, and I did more now than before, and it's done me. It's great. So I needed that trip.
So how did you actually meet up and to go over to Germany and get your foot in the door over there?
So I remember I was working at a gym, and I had one day off, and I just opened my computer and I sent out literally every promotion that I could find in Europe, England, anywhere in Europe. I sent like no lie, about 80 emails, and one promotion got back to me, which is WXW. They have a program that you could like basically move into the apartment and get trained. The apartment was upstairs, so it's very convenient. You get to the ring whenever you want. They have a gym with weights, and you live upstairs. And I had met Jackson Stone. He's from Texas. I had met him at a Ring of Honor camp, and he had went and he started going back and forth, so he was getting booked constantly. So they said, listen, you could do this what Jackson Stone did. You could come here for about 5 6 weeks, train, and we'll bring you back. And so that's what I did. So the only promotion that got back to me was WXW. So that's how it happened. Like, oh, I'm in. Just let me know when I could fly out there. And I literally lost my job and paid all my money and just went.
That kind of sounds like Freeland and I when we're booking for booking guests. Throw out 80 emails, and
Yeah,
sometimes you just get one.
You got to fish it out.
It's one of those things where they're not kidding when they say wrestling is a grind. It's a
Oh,
grind, and every single person who succeeds, they were grinding it out day in and day out, not only hitting the gym, but taking care of their nutrition, making phone calls. Obviously I'm using a dated reference, but sending out their tapes and I'm going to get to a portion of that as well that I want to talk about as far as branding, as far as an individual is concerned.
Yeah.
But with your career, obviously you've been in several different promotions and you've had the abilities to work, under different promoters. Is there any specific promotion that you have come across so far that you feel has aligned itself the best as far as the locker room, as far as the direction, the philosophy of wrestling that really is to your liking?
I would say off the bat, Battle Club Pro. That's is ran by Joaquin Morales, who also owns runs the school of Fallout, which I'm a coach at. That listen, nothing but positive comes out of that promotion. Like that locker room is the best. He knows who he brings in. He knows who he brings in, and he says it like if you're booked under me, it's cause you did me right. Like I believe in you. Like if it's not just oh yeah, you're good. Come, no, like straight up, like as simple to get simple. Like if you're not a good person, you're not gonna get booked under me. So like I remember I do those shows and the locker room is the best. Working for him is the greatest. He has done me so like he's done more for me in the few months that I've known him than anybody else that I ever met in my career.
When it comes to obviously, you're training people now, but you've been in the business for quite a while. Kind of touching back on Johnny Rods, a lot of different wrestlers talk about what was instilled with him as far as etiquette is concerned, a locker room,
Mm.
decor, proper, the way you handle yourself. Was Johnny one of those people who said, if you're getting booked on one of the shows through him, keep your head down, go to the corner, find a small spot to put your stuff down, make sure you introduce yourself to everybody? Was that kind of the mentality, or has that had that kind of changed at that point when you were training with him?
Indirectly, yes. Indirectly, yes, because that's how he said his lessons. Like it was always like indirectly. It was never direct. He would talk like in a different language. You have to like catch on. But yeah, but that's one of the things that I would say that I learned from him that other people usually don't teach. Like you do not walk into a room without shaking everyone's hand. I got that from Johnny, right? Like ever since I left Johnny, I don't think I've heard any other trainer or coach like say that or instill that in their students. Now there are coaches that say that, but I got that from Johnny. Stuff like that, little lessons like right when you walk in, you grab a corner, you don't bother nobody, you get your opponent. Once you're done, you go to the next town or whatever. You put this is his most important lesson. You put gas in the car before you get to the venue. Stuff like that that you don't learn from nobody else. Like, you learn from Johnny. Stuff like that, which I appreciate when it comes to that aspect. But yeah, that little respect thing, that was Johnny's all for it, and he goes hard with that. And that's one thing I can say Johnny did teach me.
You had mentioned before that there's a lot of things that you learn that's not necessarily, between the ropes and when you're training. A lot of times we find out that even when you said over in Europe, you learned a lot by just watching. We've had tons of stories of people who've said car rides are one of the places where we learn a
The
lot.
best.
And you sit in the back, and sometimes you're the gopher and you got to stop at the gas station, go run in and get stuff for people or pump the gas. But there's a lot of conversations that happen, and some of them are quite colorful, as we've been told before. But you don't have to name anybody, but what has there been any conversations that you've had or things that have been instilled in you in a long car ride that you look back on now and you say, oh my God, that was so spot on, and I still remember that story and what the moral of it was to today?
I really don't because I usually travel with people that okay, so I have yet to ride with someone who has star quality. I don't know if that makes sense, but someone I can
Sure.
learn from. So what I do learn on the road is basically not to do, because all you do is talk stupid shit on the road, and yeah, and at least for me, I think yeah, that's why you're not where you want to be. Stuff like that. But it's when you're in a car with wrestlers, you're in a car with 14-year-olds. That's all I can say.
This is very true. I'm glad you said it and not me, my friend. Um, was there okay, maybe not necessarily that, but let me throw this at you. Was there anybody who saw you early on in your career, and maybe not necessarily someone with star power, but anybody that said, hey, you know what, I really like what you're doing? Or was there anybody who kind of helped build your confidence? Somebody who had been around maybe a little bit longer who said, man, I really like what I saw you do in here or there, or, hey, I caught a part of your match.
You know who I got my first boost of confidence through Darius Carter. I remember it's weird, right? Because she's an asshole. Once I left Johnny, I worked Darius, and I'm green card. Just left Johnny's. I have no role experience, and people will tell me before I work him, yo, he's extremely stiff. He's gonna hurt you. He's gonna hurt you. I'm like, I mean, we better find out. One of the best matches I ever had. Um, And since then, he's been boasting me on social media, like, yo, keep your eye on Peña. So I got that first boost of confidence through Darius, and I've worked him several times. And you see on social media, people say, oh, here's my hit list. Here's who I want to work who I haven't worked yet. I say, well, listen, what about people you worked already and you can elevate it after each match? I've worked Darius 5 times or six. I feel like seven, eight, nine, 10, it'll be better and better and better. So I feel like he's the one that gave me that first. Listen, keep at it because you know what you're doing type of control. And it was multiple conversations. So big ups to Darius.
Oh, Mr. Carter, look at him. He shows a soft, caring side. He busts my balls every time he comes on here. So you know what? I'm glad to hear that there is a soft side to Mr. Carter. And you are 100% correct. He is a tremendous talent. No, all joking aside, he takes his craft very seriously. He is what I would say, and this may be putting this on a different level, I would say he's very much like an MJF, if not even earlier than what MJF was doing, because he's so good. He has the charisma. He has the personality. Yeah, I think Darius is going big places.
Let me say something that might be not good for a podcast. Darius has been Darius since day one, way before
Yes.
MJF, way before MJF.
There you
I can say
go.
that comfortably. Yeah,
I've known Darius since 2011, and
yeah,
man,
that's Darius. That's what you see is how Darius is. Like he respect. That's why I get along with Darius, and that's professionally. Let me say that because the way I view wrestling, it's not. It's a sport. I view it the same way low key would view it, the way Homicide would view it, the way Eddie Kingston would view it. It's a sport. We go out there to compete. Now, all these gimmicks and flash and stuff, I'm not about that. And you can see like through my work, I'm not about that. Like my goal is to when we go out there, the fans say, "Oh my God, like, are they really beefing? Like, are they legit? Do they really have heat?" And if you watch a Darius match, you would think that Darius hates the person he's wrestling, and it's the same way I try to view it. Like, it's legit. You're watching, and it's like he's so professional. He's so professional. I haven't seen him pull up to a show without a suit. It could be cold or hot
never.
outside. He pulled up in a suit. I love that. I love that. He respects what he does.
Yeah, but one thing that you can guarantee if you are a white hot baby face and you want to sit there and try something new, go against Darius. Darius will have that crowd
Yes.
eating out of the palm of his hand, and you will be more over than you will ever have. You
He's
know,
the easiest worker.
and the way he works a match, no wasted movement,
Mm-hmm.
slow, methodical. We're gonna work apart. What you want that flippy dippy stuff? No, no, no. You're gonna hate me. We're slowing this down even more. I
Mm-hmm.
seen him uh, work somebody doing that flippy dippy, and he sit there flat out. Nope, headlock. Took him
Yeah.
right to the ground.
It's like,
And
do you flippy stuff? When I punch in your face, you won't be doing flippy stuff anymore. It's that's the way he views it. That's the way I view it, and that's why I'm a fan of his professional. Like in the locker room, I gravitate towards him. He gravitates towards me. That's just the way it is. He's that good. He's that good.
It seems like, I think all three of us here tonight are very much old school, meaning wrestling is more of a Greco-Roman, maybe more of a ground thing, more of
Yeah.
actually showing our technical abilities. And it's a craft, and it's a craft that you hone over thousands of matches. And would you agree that some wrestling fans, and I'm not saying all wrestling fans, but some have fallen in love with, oh, it was a great match, and you look back on it, and it was just a bunch of high spots, and it was like, but well, where was the storytelling? And not to say you can't do that with some high spots, but would you say high spots are a situation where you want to sprinkle it in, but if you're truly going to show what your abilities are, you actually have to do the groundwork to actually show the audience and your opponent what you can do?
You hit it on the nail. You hit it. You just can't go in there doing flips with no story behind it. It has to mean something, you know? And it's like if you watch my matches, I rarely hit the ropes. Like, no, we're gonna fight, you know? And I feel like it, pro wrestling. When I say pro wrestling, I'm gonna say indie wrestling because to me, I'm a big indie wrestling like fan. I love independent wrestling more than TV wrestling. So it's like it has its waves. And I said this to a student like last week. I don't know if you remember when the best of the Super Juniors when Ricochet worked Osprey and it went
Yes.
it blew up and even Vader was saying, "Oh, that's nonsense." After that, every student in the school wanted to do that style. No story behind it. They wanted to do flips and they don't matter if they were big, fat, little. They wanted to do that style. So it became hot. That if you go to an indie show, that's all you will see, and you will see this, you will hear that, but that's about it. And it's now. I feel like now it's kind of doing this because everyone does that. Like you cannot tell me right now if I ask you, give me 10 people who could do a 450, you give me a list of 25.
Yep.
It's now rare no more. So it's like be different, and it's like look at the crop coming up now. I'm a huge fan of Danny Garcia. Nothing he does seems fake. Lee Moriarty, as much as he's a charismatic guy, but he's an amazing technical wrestler. My favorite, Jonathan Gresham, Josh Alexander. Look at Terminus. I saw Terminus. It was amazing. Josh Woods. It's amazing stuff. It's just it's like real fighting will never go out of style. The high spots will, and I feel like it kind of is unless you put a story behind it. You just can't go in there doing flips. You have to lay the background first. You have to lay it out. It will not make sense. And I've seen it when if done properly, the crowd pops for the proper reasons, as opposed to yeah, that's acrobatic. Yeah, like me, I appreciate it. I can see it. I can't do it, and I won't do it. I won't try to do it. But if you do the 450, oh, that's pretty dope. But that's about it. Like I know so many people who do a 450. Tell me your story. Tell me your story because it's if you lay it properly with the real fight or some or struggle. There you go, a struggle. I tell people if you go on Warstar, the most viewed video besides the X-rated one is a fight. You see a fight and it has the most views, and like we're human, we want to see a fight. We want to see a fight, like not a circus act, you know?
Well, you mentioned it before, is somebody who has gotten over with the fans for a very long time and continues to, and that's Eddie Kingston. And when you look at Eddie, Eddie's not going to be the guy who's going to do all that crazy stuff. Eddie is a guy who you probably hang out with. You maybe have a few beers with. He probably works, a blue collar job. And I'm not saying this to, diminish him.
Hmm.
It doesn't have your atypical physique. I mean, you got a physique. Eddie, I love Eddie. He's got a dad bod. But the
Yeah,
point of all of this is my God, what he brings to the table with his facial expressions, his
the best. He's the
emotion.
best. Yeah.
When he fights, he literally makes you believe that he hates this guy, and it doesn't have to look pretty, but you seem to overlook all of those other things because you are enthralled with
Hmm.
how he's delivering it, and it's just like, wow, that is
Yep.
a very big throwback to. And you're right, things are coming full circle as well. The high spot stuff, I do feel like is going to start to fade out, or the people are going to stop showing up, and it's going to
Yeah.
force people
Yeah.
to start doing something different.
Yeah. It goes. It's era. There's waves. You know, like what might be hot today won't be hot next week. And yeah, going back to Eddie Kingston, like he's been doing the same thing for years, and I believe it. And I might be biased, 'cause I'm from New York, like I love that. I feel like New Yorkers are like the best in talking. I feel like Taz, Eddie Kingston, like they're the best talkers. But he got a hell of a promo. But look at what he does in the ring, man. Look at that the match you see in Punk. Was it? I forgot him or when the crowd just erupted and everyone. I'm like, oh my god, this is he got it. Like he got them. Like as an artist, as a performer, what more do you want? What more do you want? And I
You
forgot who
can't.
tapped him out, who put him to sleep. I think
I
Punk
think
was it.
Punk put him to sleep. He never submitted, so it's one of those mentalities of he can always come back and say, you know what, you didn't make me quit. My body
Right, but
quit. My body will
was it
quit
that one?
before ever.
Was it that one where he flipped him off and he
He
just
flipped him
dropped?
off and passed out. Yep, that's a
Come
beautiful
on,
story. Beautiful
look at
story.
that story. That was amazing. I mean, that was nothing, no bumps, just this and dropping. That was the best. That was amazing.
Yeah,
That was almost better than getting a pin, in my opinion.
That's way better, way better.
you sit there and you talked about you being a New Yorker. Have you ever, two-part question, have you ever had the chance to wrestle in front of the Philadelphia crowd? And if so,
No, no,
oh, okay.
no, man, no. That
But
sucks, right? Like I feel like I want to. Like I need that stamp. Can I make it or no?
yeah, a lot of people say that Philadelphia is probably the hardest crowd to ever get over.
It's hard. They see through the bullshit. And like I'm sorry, I'm gonna say like 85% of indie wrestlers are bullshitters. They act like they wanna portray something that they're not. And the crowd sees it. They're not fake, they see it, you know? Like you just said Eddie Kingston. He's not fake. The way he is, that's the way he grew up. That's who he really is. Darius, that's who he really is. It has to be you but turned up, and that's real. And that's a perfect example.
Could you imagine, Eddie Kingston get a shot in WWE, but they're saying, okay, we're going to give you a John Cena gimmick. It will fail. Horrible.
When I heard his podcast, the Unrestricted with AEW, and he said that they offered him a contract, I'm like, oh my god, the thought of like what he would have been on WWE programming, it broke my heart just thinking about it. Like dude, you made the right choice, man. You made the right choice.
Let me ask you this question, because nowadays social media does play such a large part in branding of a wrestler. As we know, in days and years past, it had to been 8x10s and your tape that you would either
Yeah.
send out or you would take with you. You'd carry them in your duffel bag, and hey, you'd give it to a promoter. Hey, you have any spots available on the card coming up, or can I help out with the ring crew, stuff like that. When it comes to stuff like social media, Twitter or Facebook or TikTok or Instagram, what's your philosophies on that as far as how do you manage your social presence? And even with YouTube and your matches and whatnot, how do you make sure that you're putting out your content, making sure that you continue to drive eyeballs to, hey, you know what? Take a look at me. This is what you need to have on your show.
I'm gonna say this honestly, and nobody else might admit this. The worst part of wrestling is social media. Me, I hate social media with a passion. Like if I wasn't wrestling, I would have no social media at all. Maybe I'll watch funny videos on Facebook. I don't like social. I hate it because it's mandatory. And you need it. You need it. And it's funny because I would joke with Thatcher in his in the apartment because this is 2017. We all had smartphones back then. That's not that long ago. He didn't have a smartphone. He had one of those very old Blackberries that it didn't even have the ball. It had like the arrows. Yeah, that's like the first one that came out after the flip phones. That's what he had, and it's like he goes, "Well, I mean, my talent speaks." I'm like, yeah, God bless you, man, because you're over. But I wish that could be me, and it sucks. But I have to keep that in mind to stay relevant because you need it. Like it's sad to say that we live in a clout world, in a gift world that one gift can make you, or one gift could kill you, break you.
This is
You
true.
know what I mean? And it's scary to think because people, and that goes back to the indie stuff, like the flippy stuff that people want clips to post, but they don't care about the match. They just want highlight, but not the match. They don't care, and that's where it's like it's digressing, it's going backwards. Like that's not how it should be, but it is. And I try to at least post every other day, or now I'm trying so hard with Twitter. Twitter sucks, man. Twitter's so boring. It's not good at all. But I'm trying, man. I'm trying. You gotta stay relevant. You gotta keep posting stuff. Like I try to like, if I have a match tomorrow and I get like 4 clips, I try to spread it out. Just to keep like I'm active, even though I'm not booked. Like I wasn't booked during December because I had COVID, but I posted a few things just to try to stay relevant. Yeah.
Me personally, I used to hate when people used to send me highlight clips of their match instead of a full match. I'm like,
Who doesn't look good? Who doesn't look good in the highlight video? I could have a yarder who's been wrestling for a week, and I can make him look amazing in a highlight video. That doesn't tell me nothing. It's dope to see because some promoters want a highlight video. They're not gonna watch a full blown match. I get it, but you also need both. You
yeah,
know?
like
Yeah.
I want to see the crowd interaction. I want to sit there and see, how you get the crowd into the match. I want to see
Absolutely.
how you interact with an opponent. Uh, if the crowd's not into the match, what's your backup plan? That's what I want to see. And a lot of
That's
people,
yeah.
when they're out in a match having one, and it's not going their way because they went and planned A, B, C, D, E. All of a sudden, they don't know how to get the crowd back on their side. You
And they
know,
don't care. They just want to get to their high spots. They don't care about the class. Oh well, I got my clip. Like no, that's not how it is. And it's like no, there's no. It's that's not how it should be. And it sucks that, but it sucks that it's gone to that. But it's unfortunate that that's what's been working for some people, for most of people, because they want to see that. I remember I was talking to Gabe Sapolsky, and the way he views matches is he'll watch like the first minute, maybe 30 seconds, and then he don't watch the rest. He will fast forward towards like comeback time and see the crowd. If they're into it, oh, that was a good match. He don't care what you did. If you have the crowd, he's gonna book you. If you don't have
hmm
the crowd, he don't care what you did. He's not gonna watch it. He's not. He's gonna take it off. Yeah, he just watches the crowd reaction. That's all he cares about.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. It's one of those things where the social media aspect is a necessary evil. Do you ever feel like there are people when you get back in a locker room where they go to their phones, or have you seen anybody go to their phone, especially after a match is over, or see who is tweeting about something?
Me, the moment because I travel a lot with gift card okay, one of my best friends, and he's usually at every show that I do. So he'll get the clip and put it out. I view it to see how it looks. Okay, it was crispy, good. It was not. If I share it, I'll retweet it, or whatever. But I do that. But yeah, nearly everyone does that. They go straight to the phone. Hey, let me see Twitter talking. I do that now because now I'm starting to get more into Twitter. Because if you don't have no Twitter, then I mean, who really are you? But yeah, I'm guilty of that.
So you've worked in several different promotions, and I personally would love to know what your opinions are now of a lot of people crossing over. And instead, it looks like a lot of companies nowadays, with the exception of one, are allowing their talent to truly be independent contractors. Do you
Right.
feel like this is really good for the business at this point in time, or do you feel like it just kind of opened the door and now everyone's kind of going everywhere, and it may kill a little bit of the mystique of dream matches? What's your thoughts on that aspect of it?
It, like we said before with the waves, right? It's like before everyone was going to NXT. NXT was signing. If you was in anywhere, if you was anybody, you was signing NXT. No matter from Ring of Honor, if you was a PWG guy, you was getting hired, and you saw these dream matches happen. Now, as a fan, I love it. But it goes. You go to ask, how long will it last? Like how long can it last? And like will there ever be a real dream match in a year or two? Well, everyone wrestle each other unless you're a rookie coming up now who's making a name now, and then it's just how long will it last? As a fan, I love it, but that, like I said, it can't last. It can't last. Look at the mass releases last year. That's why it's so hot now, but when there's no one to release and everyone's already out here, and plus the crap that's coming up, what you really have, you know?
Let me ask you this. Do you ever feel, and you don't seem to be someone who would give into the public pressure, which I absolutely adore, but do you ever feel like some other wrestlers may feel the pressure of, hey, such and such and such and such just went out there and did all of this stuff, and you're like, well, shit, how are we supposed to, top something like that when I know that this audience is going to pop over a lot of being a spot fest when you already have a really great match planned out? Do you almost feel like you sometimes have to change things, or do you say, no, screw it, I'm sticking to my guns, will make them appreciate this type of match?
Yeah, I stick to my guns. Like, you just give me the most indie crowd on the world, and then you do a flip and they'll pop. You go back to PWG when all they do is indie stuff, no selling, just pop up. If we get up and we're working, and I slap the dog shit out of you, and that's what pops off, they're gonna pop. So
This is true.
me. I feel like I'm different. Like stiffness and realness is never gonna go out of style. It's a fight. It never goes out of style. Now, if I was an indie, like if I was a flippy guy, then I worry, right? Because what can I do different? Nothing irks me more than me seeing freaking springboard RKOs. Everyone does it. Poison Ramas, everyone does it. Like, okay, now what? You're gonna do off the ladder to be different? Like, it's not cutting it anymore. And me personally, and it's not cockiness talking, it's confidence. I know that I'm different. I bring something different to the table. Now, you want to do that? Do it. I'll watch and I'll clap. Yeah, that's pretty dope. That's crazy. I'm glad you're safe. When I go out there, I'm gonna fight. And I tell people, I think I saw Magic Darius and Trish Adora, and the crowd was quiet. And someone said, "Oh, the crowd's not into me." No, they're into it. They're watching. It's like a Japanese crowd. They're like studying. And it was amazing. You might not hear the claps, but every head. Me, I didn't see one head down on their phone. That's what I noticed. You might not hear the clap or the pop because they're not doing flippy stuff, but they're watching and they're into the match. Now when they have a little high spot, which is not a flippy stuff, when they do something big like a big double down on the finish, they're gonna be up there, and that because they work to that spot. You know,
No, I
I'm
agree.
stiff.
I agree
That
completely.
realness is never gonna go out of style, and I'm confident in saying that it's never gonna go anywhere.
Well, there is something we need to ask you,
Hmm.
and we do this with all of our guests. It's there's the SAT and there's the
Uh-huh.
ACT and then there's the Scantron test with your number 2 pencil, and there's all of these really challenging things that we have to do as we go through life.
Uh-huh. Right.
Well, here on Future Stars Now, the Rittster has created his own level of testing, and it's one question, no paper required. It's only a verbal answer. So I'm going to turn it over to the Ritt, and he's going to give it to you. And I have nothing to do with this question. This is all of my bearded friends' questions.
So does everyone get this one question, or is it different to everybody?
Oh no no.
Everybody gets the question, my friend.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
the question. It's like a Seinfeld thing. The question. All right. So, as
Here we
my
go.
my runner is ready to go. You ready, Boston Marathon?
Hot tub time machine. You can go back to any match in wrestling history. You are
Mm.
taking somebody out and putting you in the match. What match is it and why?
Oh wow. You hit me with that. I'm juggling between two matches, but I'm gonna go with one. I would have to say so. There's one match. I'll take somebody out. I'll put myself in that person. Right? Is that what that's the question?
Yep. That question hits you harder than a Walter chop.
Nothing does, but that question does. So I'm juggling between Cena and Edge. I'll take the ladder or the TLC match that they had,
Mm-hmm.
or the CM Punk and Cena. And now they're both similar because they were both the heels of both hometown, right? And you
Mm-hmm.
also got the RVD and Cena at Hammerstein.
Yeah, that
Ah, right
crowd was
there.
nuts.
You know what? I might have to go with that Cena and RVD, and I will take out Cena, and I will jump in this.
Wow.
Because no matter what he was gonna do, he was gonna get booed. No matter what, my man, he threw his shirt to that crowd like 7 times, and he got kept throwing back. Like you're not gonna do anything right. You're not. I couldn't imagine what was going through his mind. Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
I,
Yeah,
uh,
I'll take out Cena. I will be.
I sit there and love that match for that reason. That Cena, nothing Cena could have did would have been
Nothing.
anything good.
Nothing. He could have
And
gave everyone money personally. He was not gonna get
I personally would have loved to find out what that crowd would have done if Cena would have went over.
Well, there was a big sign. It says "Cena wins, we riot."
you.
So
Right.
I don't want to know. I know it's a wrestling sign, but I'm not rolling that dice at
So
all.
apparently they like surrounded his parking lot because the parking lot across the street. No, next door. I don't know if you've been to Hamilton, but it's next door. And they surrounded the whole, and they didn't want to let him out. Yeah, so cops had to come in to like break it open, and they had to send him away. It's crazy.
Jeez.
I read that not that long ago.
Well, I tell you what, this is the one part that we'd love to talk about here. So, what is your merchandise? Where can people find your merchandise? What are some upcoming events? What are your? I mean, obviously, you talked about not liking social media, but obviously, it's there. So go ahead. It's Plug O Mania. Go ahead and throw anything and everything out there.
Instagram, DC Pena, THEC Pena. Twitter, same thing, DC Pena. Facebook, C Pena. Merch will come soon because I don't want to say gimmick. I hate calling it gimmick. This what you see now is brand new. The finisher C Pena is completely brand new. So I have stuff working on right now. It should be. Stay on my social media. I will blast that in less than 3 weeks because he's drawing it out right now as we speak.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Any upcoming shows that people are in your neck of the woods that can come ahead and find you?
Next week I will be. What's today? Wow, my days are all messed up. Today's Tuesday. This Saturday will be Magic's Chat Adams Rumble. I'll be in that. I would win it, of course. Come on. I have that. Um, yeah, after someone told me today, I will post a schedule on my Twitter. Not tonight, tomorrow, because I still have a lot to confirm. But yeah, this Saturday in Richfield Park, which is down the road, 'cause I live in Richfield Park, New Jersey. The Chat Adams Rumble this Saturday with Magic.
That sounds awesome, man. And once again, is there any chance we could twist your arm to come back for another conversation with us?
You let me know. I'm in.
Awesome. Guys,
Thanks.
this has been so much fun. Steve Pena, we cannot say thank you enough for allocating some of your time with us, telling us about your career. Guys, please follow him on social media. Obviously, merchandise is forthcoming. Follow him on social media. You'll be able to get the dates, all the information of where you can find him and continue to support independent wrestling because, in my opinion, it is the hungriest of the hungry. It is the lions of the savannah. They are going after wildebeests left and right, and it is where wrestlers actually can be themselves and not have to worry about following a script. So that's what I love. You guys continue this, keep this art form alive, and we appreciate it more than you'll ever know.
Thank you guys.
Thanks a
so
lot,
much.
Steve.
We'll talk to
Hey,
you
take care.
soon, my friend. See
You
ya.
got it, bro.
All right, guys. That was Steve Pena, and what an amazing conversation, Ritt. I mean, there are people that you meet and you're like, man, I love watching them wrestle, but I love them even more now that I get to know them on a personal level. And I think that Steve falls right into that category.
Yeah, I loved. We probably could sit there and do a whole thing about just him in Germany.
Absolutely, we
those
could.
those 6 weeks. especially for the people that he got to work with while over there. It shows you the amount of effort he puts forth in his career.
No, I agree. Guys, that is officially going to do it for Future Stars Now. We could not thank you anymore for coming and joining us and supporting our show. Remember, we have a whole lineup of shows here on the Front Row Material brand. Rittster, give them the rundown of what shows and what nights.
Well, Monday night, we've got 6 Degrees of Written Renegade at 8 p.m. We go down the rabbit hole, talk wrestling, talk, pop culture, music, you name it. We don't know where we're going to end up. Tuesday nights, 9 o'clock, we've got FRM Pod. We usually have one of the greatest names in the professional wrestling business sitting down talking with us.
Well, I don't like to brag, but I mean, I appreciate that. I mean,
yeah,
the talent's pretty good too. But
then we have the panel at 10 o'clock, where we discuss wrestling topics and whatnot. Thursday, we have the Cult of Beardo with myself, Renegade, and the Butt. And then Friday, of course, you've got myself and Mike Freland, Future Stars Now, bringing you the hottest indie talent that there is to watch and be learning about along their journey.
Guys, that is the rundown. Please continue to follow us on social media. Follow us on our Twitter account. Follow us on Twitch as well. If you would hit that follow, or if you'd be so inclined, hit the subscribe button. Also, check out Front Row Materials YouTube page as well. You can search us, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get more and more followers as well. We're always adding great content as well. So please join us for the ride because, guys, it's only going to get more and more exciting. For the Rittster, I am Mike Freland. It's been Future Stars Now, and we'll catch you next week.